Ooh, ooh, ooh. G'day guys, welcome to others videos. It took me a while to get that out of my mouth. Well, have I got another doozy for you guys? But I've got a bit of, before I waffle on, guys, it's Yumcha time, you know. So all those guys who drink with these videos or have their meals with these videos, there's the sponsored cup from everybody. There it is there. The Pinwiki guys and the Jameson crew. I'm still waiting for them to come to the party. Mate, guys, the bottle's going down. And guess what? It's no more hot, sticky days anymore. It's bloody cold lately. So, hang on, get my go over here. It's like a half-inch past this video going to be. Oh, there it is there. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Oh, ho, ho, ho. All right, guys. Cheers. Mate, hit the spot, mate. It's been cold mornings, mate, cold afternoons and all that. Before I waffle on, you guys know what the description of... Oh, fuck, look at my finger. In the description, I do wash my hands, guys, if anyone looks at my fingers and that. It's just that the scars are inside, you know. So, you know what the description is. It's above. The last video... A lot of people couldn't eat their dinner after my remarks, what I said. I'm not going to bring it up. But everybody asked me, what was that spring that you waffled on? How bad was that spring? I actually found it. Okay, now check that spring out. Okay, check it out. Have a look what the guys did with that clock. Because everybody was impressed how bad the clock was. See what happened? Check that out. Play that video back, mate. It's last week's video. Go and play it. And check it out, how bad it was, you know what I mean? So that's what ruined the clock, because the way the clock was going, you know? So yeah, everybody wanted to know what is, I found it. But yeah, I'll just show you how bad it was, okay? It's got nothing to do with, yeah, it is got to do with poker machines, but it's got nothing to do with mechanical ones. I told you last time I'm going to show you a bit more about this one here. So I'm going to start off, there's going to be about 3 sections or 3 parts for this video. Okay, so it's, you know what it is, it's there, the description's up the top. I'm going to reveal it. Okay, this is, alright, I'll remove the taser safety cap. Okay, this is the inside of the Elans and the Sprints inside the head box, you know what I mean? So that's the cage, what's inside the head box, you know, there you go, that's what it looks like, you know. I haven't got the boards in this. So I've taken them all out, I'll show you a bit more. Wherever you do, there you've got to mark them, okay? That's number 1, but these 3 are bloody the same. You've got to mark them on the loom, on the harness that goes in there. If you don't do that, you take them off, you can't put them wherever they are. You got to, you know what that is, you know, in the cooler, mate. So that's number 2, that's number 3, and that's number 4. So you got to make sure you mark them when you take out, because when I did that Inca King guy, I didn't mark him. I copped it. You know how long I had to sit there with a multimeter, work out which plug goes to what part of the machine through the loom. So don't do what I did. I actually, yeah, in the arse I copped, you know what I mean? But at least I admit my in the arse, you know what I mean? So yeah, so that's what the cage looks like. So I've removed it from the cage. Here's what the board looks like, basically. There it is there. Okay? Then on the other side, here it is there. There it is there. There's 2. This one's been replaced, basically. I had issues, this one's got a short in it. And check that out, all right? So what happens is the boards slide into there. So the top one is, the small one is the MPU, the bottom one is your driver. Okay, so that's what's inside the cage. That's what this video I'm going to make about how this thing works, you know what I mean? So, yeah, there you go. That's where the headers go in, okay? So I'm going to leave it there now. So, the MPU board. Okay, I've got this one here for you. Okay, this one here is the Inca King. I had showed you this last time, but I'm going to go in a bit more details. So what happens is, it's got a small edge connector. That's what that goes inside like so. It plugs inside into the cage like so, basically, you know, because it's got a location pin. Okay, so in the cage it goes like that. So what happens is, I've taken the processors out anyway, and that's where your program is and that. What happens with these guys a lot, the batteries leak, basically. All right, so when it leaks out, that's what happened with this guy here. It leaked out, which I couldn't fix the bottom of the board because of electrolysis. So that's why I found him another board. So most of the problem with these guys is the batteries eat them out, so they kill the 2 RAM chips, basically, you know what I mean? But there's that one. You can get it with the EPROMs in here, or most of them come with this daughter board, basically, you know what I mean? So here, there's a daughter board that plugs over here, basically, you know what I mean? So what happened was, the EPROMs they were using, they were 2708s. Then they used 2716s above here, was 16s. The 08s were different voltages, 25 volts. So they had to come up with this adapter board to put on the top here, so they could run a different software, basically, on their version of the board. So this board here is, this version of this board is issue 2. Okay, so it has got an issue number. This is issue 2, basically, of this particular board. But the biggest problem what kills these boards is the battery, okay? If the stupid battery leaks like everything else, like the pinball machines and all that. I'm going to give you the thing one more time, the finger. Okay, but yeah, that's how this particular board is, basically, you know. And there's another one, we had an extension board put on there. But I found an early board, another really early one here. This is issue 1. Okay, how do I know? It says on the end of the board. So what you could do, you could use this board instead of this board. But have a look how on a playback video you can play back. Have a look at it. They look the same. Okay, similar layout, but they did some early additions here. But with the new one, if you have a look, you can have a look. They changed a lot of it, so they improved it. So the newer the version of the board is, the better the board. They fix up the fuck ups, basically. You know what I mean? So this era has been. They're not bad. They're not bad, but the problem is it's a lot of the times is the connector. But you don't go in there and scrape the shit out of it because they're gold plated, basically. You're going to have issues, and your machine's going to do some heebie-jeebies. These boards are real. This machine is pretty shit. You know, it's not shit. It's just it's critical of everything, how it goes in, the continuity and that. Because what I had problems is I got a short in this bloody adapter in this connector, and the problem is I actually found those not long ago. This connector here. Now I'm trying to find this bastard. You know what I mean? And the story behind this. I was in China was it probably 8 years ago, 10 years ago, and I went around, and the bird that I met was, I asked, I said, you can find this connector. She said, yeah, leave it with me, and my mate goes, mate, you ain't going to find your 100 RMB, which is $20. Before I knew it, I had this connector mailed out to me. And then since then, we've become real good friends. She's the one who's supplying me all the bits and pieces that I'm chasing, all the weird parts and that. It all came from this one connector. And I ain't making it up. It's the facts, you know what I mean? I can't remember the year because time flies, you know what I mean? But yeah, it was all because of one connector that I wanted, and she couldn't get the big one. But yeah, we've been friends. She's been supplying me all my parts and all that. All the weird parts that I've caught, you know, because I've got some Space Invader boards that I'm repairing. And I'm chasing the old, mate, the 2017 RAM chips, you know, and the 8080 CPUs, mate. We're talking old. We go, man, what's that got to do with the poker machine Space Invaders? I'm just saying how hard it is to get bits and pieces. So yeah, so that's how this board is, the MPU board. So yeah, so they've updated it, you know, to the newer version and that, basically, but. I've got a machine that I have just for testing these out. So if anyone sends me boards on that, I use my machine to test them all out. But I had one guy send me some boards of his mate. His boards were like this, you know what I mean? And I said, dude, your boards are pretty bad. Let me with me. I'll see what I can do for you. So I'm still working with that guy, you know what I mean? I said, look, your shit's safe here. I'm just going to help you out with your machine. So that's what the MPU board is now, you know? So now the other section now is, all right, here, this is the driver board, okay? So they're running the old 6821s, okay? Because the pinball machines use it for buffers. It's for to drive chips, but drive the coils and all that. The same with this shit here, basically, you know? So they're all standard issue parts. You could find it. They're triacs and normal transistors in that. But the way the system works, transistors destroy the display. You know, the display in the head box. I might have to make a video on that too. Each transistor lights the segment for the 7-segment displays. Those LEDs in the back there. The other transistors drive other parts as well. The ones over here that drive the motors, coils, everything is driven by the transistors. Then it goes back up to here from the PIAs, you know, or the 6821s. So the problem with back of these guys, a lot of them are putting fuses into where the fuses where they're putting in for the displays in the bottom of the cage there, which I showed in one of my other videos in the Elan and the Sprint. Watch the Inca King, you know what I mean? They're not fuses, they're actually the globes. They actually are globes, okay? There actually are physically globes that are, they're actually, I'm trying to find the globes are here. Oh, where's my fucking globes? They're actually globes. They're actually globes that, where are they? The fucking globes, nah. They're not fuses, they're actually globes. So don't put them in there because you're going to cop it again. So, as I said to you, that's what the opposite side is and all that. But when you do work on these boards, mate, you need a good desoldering station. I keep saying to you, you can't use a solder sucker to remove this. See what happened? I had a problem over here. The track fucked up. Because what happens is, it's delaminating for those people who have never watched the video. Delaminating is when the track lifts off the board, basically because of heat or whatever, of age and that. But you see how it's still nice and gold? You need to have you got to have that. I normally clean it with a rag, basically, to clean them up a bit. But don't sit there and with a sandpaper. They're not. If you do that, you fuck the boards. Because what happens is, it won't make good contact inside the board, inside the cage, basically, you know what I mean? When it gets interlocked with each other, it won't make good contact. And if it doesn't make good contact, you're going to have problems, basically, you know what I mean? With this stuff, you know what I mean? So, again, just clean it all up with just a rag, basically, you know what I mean? Just clean it up, get the tarnish off there. But these are real critical to make good continuity between it. If not, the grounding is another problem with these boards. I don't know what it is with this machine with the grounding. If the ground misses out, all the coils lock in, and again that, you know what I mean? So don't be afraid of this machine. It's pretty easy to work on if you just do the simple steps, you know what I mean? Basically, but the biggest thing is these edge connector type boards are shit, you know what I mean? Because they need to have good continuity for it to work, basically, you know what I mean? But once you got that, you know, the rest is easy, you know what I mean? But as I said, there is a simple way, but if your board's got acid on that, you're pretty screwed, basically, you know what I mean? You are pretty screwed because you know how, as I said to you, once the track's got acid in that, because the veer holes top and bottom of the tracks don't have continuity. I've copped it a couple of times, you know. So you look at the track, yeah, it looks good. You look down the bottom, it looks good. Nah, you're going to measure from point A to point B to where it goes. Don't believe to just here to here, then go underneath and measure it again. You've got to go from where it normally goes because sometimes the acid has eaten right through the board. So you're not. So what happens is you're measuring here, and you go, oh, here it is here, and you're measuring here, and to go here. And yeah, it looks good. But the problem is that hole and this hole here, you're not having continuity because the veer hole, it might be eaten through. I copped that once. I copped it a couple of times, but I learnt my lesson. Start from the end, work to where it goes, and make notes. And by the way, guys, there is no circuit diagram for this. Yeah, man, isn't there a circuit diagram? Yeah, it's called pen and paper and a friggin' multimeter. And you take notes, you know what I mean? That's how I've been doing it. I've been taking notes. and then I've lost them again. You know, I've got to know where I put my notes. But yeah, it's pretty straight, simple procedure basically on this board. You know what I mean? But it's always good to have another machine to test them. I'm not trying to, as I said, luckily I've got a spare machine that I use to test it out to make sure they're all working. Because you might have your board working, but you might have issues further down the line. It might be your mechanisms faulty and that. But having a machine to test it, you can eliminate all your problems, basically. Like I say with normal video games, you know. Again, you always have another one to test with, because don't assume that your machine's working, but you might have board problems. Your board might be working, you've got harness problems. They're real critical with all this stuff, you know what I mean? So that's all I can think of out of my top of my head, because I've spent a lot of time on this, man. I've spent a lot of time on this. Getting through most of the details, what triac, what diet, what transistor does what, and following it all back, you know what I mean? So, again, you know, this is, by the way, this is before MicroStars, you know? But, yeah, it's simple thing, simple boards, you know, they're not rocket science, you know what I mean? So, guys, you know, like I'm going to say, I'm going to sign off now. You know, thanks for watching this video. If I made a mistake, I'll think of something when I'll play back. I'll repeat what I've done mistake with that. But yeah, it just showed you two different versions of issues. You know what I mean? So guys, thanks for watching my videos. Cheers again. You know the old saying is, you know, poker machine, pinball, pinball machines, video games, poker machines, and look the love, mate. I enjoy it, guys. Thanks for watching. You know, thanks. Cheers.